Hello, my friends. This is Dr. Ginny Barrow. This week, I'm bringing you one micro learning, and this is based on one of the questions that I posed to my Fearless Leadership Mastermind this week. It's a group of women and leaders that gather on a weekly basis for 6 months. And in that training, we learn how to grow our leadership skills. And most importantly, we also practice putting these skills in the context of solving problems for work, being more productive, increasing our performance, our team performance, and bringing more cohesiveness to our team and inclusiveness to the team. And the question that I asked this week was, what would you do if you were not afraid? And this is a great question, especially at this time of the year, the beginning of 2021. And it's really, truly amazing for me what people say when they remove fear. And where does fear come from? For many of us, and if you have been doing self-development for a while, this may be kind of, common sense. But if you haven't done self-development, if you haven't questioned what is it that you want to create in life, if you haven't looked into what drives your behaviors and your beliefs, then you may be pretty much acting in autopilot and you don't even realize it. And I say that with love. So one of the things that keeps us in fear is the stories that we tell ourselves. And all of us have a story. Well, for many of us, our stories are what's keeping us trapped. The story that we tell ourselves about our life and how things are going and what happened to us and how we were hurt and how we learned from that experience and we're going to do it differently because we're not going to get hurt again. Those stories keep us trapped. They keep us from unleashing. They keep us from true joy and true freedom. And to me, one of my values is freedom. And I realized that when I began to get clear on what stories I was telling myself, that's exactly what they were, stories. So I began to unleash on the world, unleash my full potential, my unique value proposition, once I began to dismantle the stories I was telling myself about my life, about my career, about my personal life. So I want to help you in this micro learning to think about, and this is your challenge as a result of this learning, this teaching, what is the story that you're telling yourself that is keeping you trapped? And this could be keeping you trapped in your career or in your relationships, which are two major areas in our life. And then how is that story keeping you trapped in terms of your overall well-being? This is how I do this exercise. When I was looking at an area of my life, for example, when I was looking to start my own business back in 2017, right? I was saying, wow, how can I do this? I've been in the corporate world for the last 25 plus years. This is all that I know. How do I make this huge transition into working for myself as a leadership coach, as a motivational speaker, as an author? Things were not that clear to me back when I started, and that was part of the fear. But the story I was telling myself is that I didn't know how to do my own thing. And so that story kept me spinning my wheels, and it kept me in fear. What took me out of the story was focusing on love and not fear. So look at your career and look at what decisions you're making to stay where you are, to not go for the next level, to not advance in your career, to not making a move that you know is way overdue. What is the story that's keeping you there? What are you telling yourself that you've begun to believe? Now you think that that's your truth, when in fact it is a story. And then ask yourself, if I were coming from a place of love instead of fear, what would that look like? What would I do if I were coming from love and not fear? This is in your career. Then I would like you to take the same questions and apply them to your personal life, to your personal relationships, especially, right? What stories are you telling yourself in your personal relationships that are truly keeping you behind this jail cell that are keeping you from truly connecting with someone or from taking your relationship to the next level, right? What stories are you telling yourself? And if you ask yourself, am I coming from a place of fear of love or love? You may find that you're coming from a place of fear. And probably it's a stretch for so many of us to recognize that we're operating from a place of fear. And trust me, I do it. We all do it. I am not putting myself on a pedestal at all. All I'm saying is let's question it. Because if we don't question where we're coming from, we're going to be operating in autopilot. And there's nothing that separates you more from joy than being unconscious and in autopilot about the decisions that you are making that you don't even realize that you're making by behaving in the way that we behave. So in your personal relationships, if you were to ask yourself, what would it look like if I came from a place of love instead of fear? What would you do differently? So that is my micro learning for you today, to ask yourself the question, what would I do if I weren't afraid? In my career, what would I do if I weren't afraid in my personal relationships? What would I do differently? And what would it look like if instead of coming from a place of fear, I was coming from a place of love? So in my business, to wrap up the story, when I finally focused on coming at it from a place of love, and when I focused on the impact that I would have on the leaders that I would support to develop their skills, to create an inclusive workplace where them and everyone else who's working with them will thrive because they will be enablers of those people, their teams, that's when I got into my heart, when I got into love, and when I let the fear melt away. So once I figured that that was more important to me than staying in the fear of how am I going to make it, how am I going to pay my bills, how am I going to pay my mortgage, all of that, that was all based on a story I was telling myself, then I was able to look and get resourceful and start looking for how to get the capabilities that I needed to run my own business successfully. 4 years later, if I told you that it was a piece of cake, I would be lying, because it wasn't. It's been a lot of work. It's been a lot of self-investment, a lot of time, effort, and financial investment in myself. It's basically taking all the chips and putting all the chips on me and having the full responsibility of running a business, being profitable and serving my clients and continuing to develop the business, all happening at the same time, while I'm still a mother of my 13-year-old, while I'm still the sole breadwinner in my household, while I'm still paying child support, all of the things that everybody else has on their plate, I have on my plate. However, what I do know is that I am clear on my purpose. I am clear on my compelling vision, what I want to create over the next 6 to 12 months, and also getting clear on the capabilities that you would need to do the same for you. So how do you get that clarity? How do you become clear on your purpose and what you're here to do, and step away from fear and step into faith instead, and faith and love? There is a lot to be said to stepping away from fear and into faith and love. And I know it's getting close to February, and the month of January is almost gone already. So as you look at your goals for 2021, I will ask you to dig a little deeper and to challenge yourself this year to go a little deeper than you have in the past, to explore where you are now, where you want to be, what it will require for you to get there, and the type of support that you're going to need to do that. I have learned over the years that doing it by myself would have taken me so much time to figure things out in my business. However, when I partner with other people, coaches, mentors, who had already done what I was trying to do, I was able to accelerate my progress and get there so much faster and in a much more enjoyable way. Then I will invite you to set up a strategy session at callwithginny.com. And I'll see you next week.